The reason why we're not going to start professionally this time is because the STC doesn't have any rules.
Right.
And if it did, I've broken them anyway. And if it did have rules, then we'd break them too. We'd break all the rules.
So what is the STC normally about?
So the STC, this podcast is normally about, I don't know, like talking. What do we talk about? Toast, tea. Oh, and Warhammer lore and stuff like that as well. We like a bit of toast and tea, Warhammer lore, which order you should add the ingredients to make a cup of tea.
We've talked about penguins a few times as well.
Penguins. If you make a PB&J sandwich, what kind of, in England, what kind of jam do you use? Because we don't have Jell-O.
We don't do PB&Js over here.
I do PB&J. I like PB&Js.
What do you mean you do PB&Js? I thought it was illegal.
No, this is the new thing. You get smooth peanut butter, you get some raspberry jam, one side peanut butter, one side jam, bam!
There's no butter in it or anything. It's not a proper sandwich.
Well, the peanuts make the butter, don't they? The peanut butter.
Let's face it sounds disgusting. What's wrong with a good old Marmite sandwich on white Baxter's bread?
On Tesco's plain white bread.
With the butter as well, 2 layers. We've been there.
Question.
What?
Real question.
What?
Do you have butter? Do you use butter?
I do.
We're not talking about margarine. We're not talking about Flora Light with olive oil or
hand Aquila across my chest to the Emperor of Mankind.
Yeah.
Butter.
Okay, what butter do you use?
I think we're using I don't know, Anchor. It might be. It's just a classic butter. It might be Asda's own. I don't know.
Is it spreadable though, or is it in a block that you have to leave out?
So it's technical. So when you own butter, it's not as easy as margarine. There's processes and steps you have to go through. But ultimately, if you own a butter tray with a lid on it, then you cut a hunk off of your frozen piece of butter from the fridge that could kill a man if you launched it through a sling. You cut a bit off and you put it in your butter tray and leave the butter tray out with a lid on it. Okay. And then it's spreadable. I'm
really proud of you. I'm actually really proud of you because
it's not me, by the way. This is I can't. Yes, it's all my much better half who comes up with these geniuses idea. I'm a man. I'll keep it in the washing machine if I run out of space elsewhere. I'll keep it. It doesn't matter where it goes.
I'm proud of Mrs. Winters, and I'll tell you why. Because butter is such a superior lactose item. I don't know what you call it. A superior starting spread over margarine. Because recently we've been getting margarine, and usually I'd get butter, and there was this butter that is basically illegal. It's called Brittany salted butter, right? And it's from Brittany in France, and it's got salt crystals in it. And when you eat it, you think, I probably shouldn't be doing this. This is like, it's all the deliciousness of butter, but with also massive crystals of salt.
Nice.
It just came into my head just then. I needed to know more than anything else that was going on.
Right.
Whether you ate butter, and I'm proud you do.
It turns out you eat margarine.
No, I don't eat margarine.
No.
I did get some margarine and realised that it's worth the health risks of eating real butter, I think, to avoid that world of margarine. Margarine is like one step away from plastic or something, they say. It's basically like an oil, it's a plastic compound. It's basically just oil dyed yellow.
One step away from plastic. PB&Js, they're basically a hate crime, and you like them too.
Let's not hate on PB&Js, to be honest, mate. This isn't the place for hating on PB&Js. This is the place for glorifying them because they're amazing. But anyway, that aside, we were talking about.
No, I can't. Yeah, you're right. It's food. It's food. Glorify any food.
Yeah,
yes.
Come on, man.
I stand corrected.
Yeah.
Yes.
What were we talking about? We're talking about the the show that we're doing now,
You're
right?
breaking the rules, you said. That
Oh,
don't
yeah.
exist. There are no rules,
Yeah.
and you're breaking them anyway.
Yeah. So I'm going to do an intro now, and I'm going to explain what this... So, hello, everybody. Welcome to the STC podcast. It's called the Storytime Cast. My name's Warsmith Chris. This is Winter's SEO. Hi, Winter's SEO.
Hi, Warsmith Chris.
He used his government name earlier, and I said, why don't you use your government name in the podcast? And he was like, we can't... That's just not right. And I agree, actually. It's not right, is it, to use a government name? So that's why we call him Winters.
Yeah.
SEO is the legendary name. This is a podcast. Yeah, just don't worry. I'm doing my thing.
That didn't land. We can edit that.
I'm doing my thing.
Caught in a comedy cul-de-sac there. You need to reverse back out. Okay? Get back on the high street. Put your foot down.
I live in a comedy cul-de-sac. That's my whole shtick, is getting myself in way too deep and then having to back out of it as awkwardly as possible. That's my style.
That's it. I like it. It's a great style. Someone should make a podcast about it. It's brilliant.
They should, yeah. And they should call it like the STD or something, because that's like a gross name. That's like, yeah.
I can see that would be really funny. That would be a bit of a comedy thing to call it the STD again, and that, yeah. And then you could get stuck right.
And it would be like Larry David in Curb Your Enthusiasm. Do you watch Curb Your Enthusiasm?
No, just like you've lost 95% of the audience, but go on. We're in a comedy cul-de-sac.
We're in a cul-de-sac. Larry David in Curb Your Enthusiasm, it's all about him. He's funny, but he keeps like getting himself in more and more awkward situations, and that's where the comedy comes from, is that he's in this like, oh no, cringe kind of thing. So that's my...
5% of the people are laughing now. They love that.
They're like, yeah, Curb Your Enthusiasm, man. I watched that.
I'm wearing the t-shirt, man.
Anyway, this is the STC. It's a podcast where we talk about law. Usually what we do is the people who join and become members of the Windows SEO channel.
Skip to the end.
Yeah, they go on the Discord because they're members of the channel, and they send us questions. My camera's all over the place tonight. You know what? There's no rules tonight. The camera doesn't even want to stay in focus. You know why? Because it doesn't follow the rules. It's
I thought we have no rules anyway.
Yeah, so you know what? I'm glad the camera's not being in focus.
Yeah. You
send in your questions. We look at the questions. I filter out the ones that are semi-passable as questions to be asked. We then answer the questions on here, and we're not going to do that. That's not what we're doing. We're not here for that.
Did you get the spaced reference in all of that? The skip to the end?
Oh, you know what? I didn't get the spaced reference.
95% of the... Yeah, 5% maybe. Anyway, yes. Instead, tonight, we are doing another thing because Space Marine 2 came out, and it's awesome.
That's the one.
You might be wondering, if you survived past that incredible intro, what the hell we're talking about this evening. And we're talking about all the factions, all the armies, all the things in Space Marine 2. If you are thinking about getting into the hobby because you've played Space Marine 2, don't. But if you're still thinking about getting into the hobby after playing Space Marine 2, you need to sell a kidney, a small child, stop all your other hobbies, because this takes up a lot of time.
This one does it.
What army should you buy? Where should you start? What should you do? # time in.
Yes. But we are a narrative law podcast, so we're obviously going to give you the angles that, from a law perspective as well, because, you know, if you've played Space Marine 2, you're probably going, oh, I love being a dude that does this, and pow, 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 I want to rip dudes' heads off, and just pow, 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 pow. And not all the armies play like that on the table. Some do, some don't. But we'll go through roughly like what you can expect from the army, and hopefully, whether you've already a 40k player and you're thinking about getting a new army because you've had your loins fired up by playing Space Marine 2, you're all hot in the loins, or maybe you have thought about it for ages. You've played Space Marine 2 and you've gone, you know what? I'm going to go to the best Warhammer channel on the interwebs. And then you realise that had actually been taken down for whatever reasons. Then you went to Winter's SEO, and here you are watching this, going, where's the models? Where's all the cool shit? And if you're still watching now, we're going to take you on a little adventure through the armies, in alphabetical order, the armies of Warhammer 40,000. Now, if we've got the budget for it, we'll do a cool little 3D video transition bit here, all right?
Yeah, but we might not, because there are no rules.
There are no rules, but it's just imagine that. STC presents the armies of the 40k universe.
Imagine that.
Just imagine it.
The people watching this are imaginative people, otherwise they wouldn't be watching this. They'd be watching something like golf.
Golf, yeah.
Yeah.
That's for people with no imagination, isn't it?
And people with really bad fashion sense.
They're just, I can wear this, that's fine. And all the other people there are wearing it, so you're fine.
All the colours, all the time.
Yeah. Weird choice. We can do this in alphabetical order, which means...
Warhammer 40k completely normal.
Yeah, that's totally normal. There's a lot of stuff under A.
Right.
So it's going to be top...
Avocado.
It's going to be top heavy. Avocado, ambulance. It's another A word. No, the first army is going to be the Adepta Sororitas, or also known as the Sisters of Battle. Now, if you are new to the hobby, the Sisters of Battle were a faction that's been in it for a very, very long time, but only in recent years, did they get brought up to date with plastic models and stuff. In fact, if you were a Sisters of Battle collector and fan prior to like 3 years ago or whenever it was, you were still using models from like 1995 or something, or 1993 or 4 or 5 or 7. One of the 90s, they were the same models that you were still using in the 2000 and somethings. What are the Sisters of Battle? What are the Sisters of Battle?
Well, the first thing you have to remember is if you want to start in this hobby, every single faction is the bad guy. Yeah. And the Sisters of Battle are one of the worst, because not only are they terribly, terribly bad, they like to burn things, everything that doesn't believe that the Emperor's a god, including the number one target for the Sisters of Battle is the Imperium of Man.
Yeah.
Putting down riots, putting down chaotic uprisings, putting down anyone who crossed the road when the street line was red. These Sisters of Battle, they are religious fundamentalists. They'd pick a religious fundamentalist from history, and the Sisters of Battle
not even
are
close.
Like S tier above that, more fundamental than the most fundamentalist fundamental. So fundamental, in fact, that their power of faith, their power of belief, manifests itself in the real world and brings down living saints. Yeah,
they are known as the nuns with guns.
Yeah,
they've got a very nun-like. They probably have the most grimdark gothic aesthetic in the game. They've got some fantastic looking stuff. They've got tanks that look like cathedrals, and you play an organ and missiles come out and stuff. And they've all got like very gothic designs all over them. They are they bring to the table this mechanic of belief, right? So when you play Sisters of Battle, you actually get miracle dice. You roll dice that you can use to just change the result of a dice roll to be something really cool, because it represents them sort of having a miracle happen. So you get shot and you're like, yeah, I'll just make that a 6 so I don't get hurt.
Miracles.
Because I believe so hard in the Emperor.
Yeah. Where they fit in the Imperium structure is there is one church in the whole of the Imperium of Man. None of this Catholicism, Protestantism, Mormonism, none of that. No, there is one church.
Just church, mate. Go to church.
Church, the ecclesiarchy. They are the militant arm of the church itself, and they're all women, because there was a tiny mix-up about 5,000 years ago, 35, tiny mix-up between the church and the state, and the church said, okay, we won't raise men-at-arms anymore. Oops. But look at all these women at arms. Yeah. And that's where we are now. So they are the Sisters of Battle. They are screaming mad women and penitent engines. Don't even get me started on. You do something wrong, okay? You say your prayers wrong. You forget a holy liloquy. You don't bow to the Sister Repentia in the right way. Then you get strapped into this machine, and it causes lots and lots of pain, and you get thrown at the enemy. And if you somehow survive that and inflict more pain upon the enemy, then you might get let out. But most of the time,
nice.
No. They're angry women, okay, yeah. And they want to purge everything.
Now you might be like, oh, they're cool nuns with guns. Maybe I'd like to ask one out on a date. Now, you could ask one out on a date because they are not a chaste order. However, they are very much more into the Emperor than they are into you.
They're all married already.
They're married to the Emperor.
They are the brides of the Emperor.
Yeah, and
they're all married to the Emperor.
They really like to cleanse people they don't like with bolter and flames. So if you try and ask one out, you're probably going to be on fire with loads of mass reactive rounds in you. They also use power armor, don't they? They use
power armor.
They use their own version of power armor.
They're not as tough. So playing them on the tabletop is lots of tanks, lots of guns, large squads of sisters all over the place. But they also have raving fanatics wearing not a lot with the high feel no pain, and also penitent engines and mod factors and things like that. You can also go quite aggressive on the attack as well. So you can make a very punchy army, you can make a very shooty army, you can make a balance in between. That's how they play on the tabletop. Yes.
Cost wise, I think you do still need quite a lot of them. They're very small models, and I think they're quite cheap, aren't they, at the moment? I know points go up and down and stuff.
They're one of the larger. So certain factions that we're going to go through have a smaller model count, and they're therefore easier to collect, cheaper to collect. Yep. Let's just assume that all of the armies that you're going to drop £1,000 if you want a nice collection minimum.
So cheap units means expensive army, because you can obviously get a lot more in there, and I'm fairly sure that the sisters aren't super elite and super expensive in that regard. So you're going to be buying a lot of them. Which leads us to our next army, which is the absolute opposite. So this is another fairly new faction in the grand scheme of things. It's the Adeptus Custodes, Mr. Cavill's favourite faction, as everyone now knows because of the internet memes, and a little bit controversial to fans of the lore in some respects, because the Custodes were initially the Emperor's original boys who were designed to protect Terra and designed to detect his magic house that he lived in, his special house. But in more recent lore, they've been allowed to go out and go on adventures a bit more often, and they are now an army. And this is the army that you get if you want to have very elite models on the table, very tough, very strong models that rely very much on you being lucky with the dice to keep them alive. But the option is always there. So they all have something called an invulnerable save. If you're not aware, it means that every time they do get hit by something, unless there's certain rules that bypass it, you're always going to get a chance to save them, and it's usually a 50-50. So if you make lots of 50-50s, your opponent's going to think, wow, these guys are tough. If, like me, 50-50 actually means nothing at all, you're going to roll 1s and 2s all the time, they're going to die, and you're only going to have your 15-20 models on the table are going to be gone. See you later. What would you like to say on the matter?
The elite Space Marines, so much more powerful, stronger, faster than a human, and Custodes, so much powerful, stronger, faster than a Space Marine. These are the elite of the elites. And in a universe where every faction is a bad guy, these guys, you could argue, because they protect the Emperor of Man, they're good guys, but are they? Because they protect the Emperor of Man. That's all they do, and they will slaughter planets and sectors and cities in order to protect the Emperor of Man, and they will let billions of Imperial citizens die if Terra ever got invaded in order to protect the Emperor of Man. They have one goal, and they're hypno-conditioned not to have another goal.
Yes. But they also they do this thing called the blood games, right? It's where they test the defences, and they test themselves, and they test the defences of the Imperial Palace, and that kind of shows you where their head's at, right? Because on these blood games, they will quite gladly kill just a load of civilians on the way in as part of their little plan, just to essentially for a blood sport, for a little. We're going to do war games. We're just going to test out how well this is doing. And by the way, I'm going to need to kill these 17 people here who are going to catch me if I don't dispatch them. But that's all cool, because it's just part of my game, part of my exercise. So they can be a bit dickish in that respect. But in the end of the day, if you're playing Warhammer 40,000, you also have to understand that human life is abundant and worthless in this. in this universe. So
it literally says in the
keep
cover,
that in mind.
thing of the books to be a human in untold, but it's a one in the untold millions of. It's pretty worthless, but that's why we like it. That's why we like the grim darkness of the far future.
Ooh, yes.
Everyone's a bad guy. Human life is worthless. How bad can it get? Let's have fun.
Yes. So why would you play? Why would you play them on the tabletop, Winters?
The elite of the elite. Low model count army, cheaper to collect than some armies. Lots of deep striking, so they can teleport down onto the battlefield. They're good at fighting, good at shooting, they're good at doing everything, except for taking down really big vehicles, because they don't have very many really big vehicles.
Yes.
So you can ally in some stuff to allow them to take down some really big vehicles. There's also the Sisters of Silence that fight with them, because they're not very good anti-demon, but it turns out the Sisters of Silence are very good at anti-demon, so they often work side by side, and they're in the same codex, so you can actually hoard up with them quite strongly as well if you want to bring lots of sisters along. But they're precision strike, hunter, killer, seeker. They're normally the army that I recommend to people who wants to start. Custodians are good; they'll make you feel buff, and you don't need very many of them, but there's weaknesses in their game, shall we say. Because in the lore, in a massive big battle, you'll have some of them, and they don't have to worry about any tanks, because they'll bring Titans with them, or lots and lots of Imperial Guard who've got some tanks. But on the tabletop, it can be a finesse army to play.
Yes. The other side of the coin is, of course, that all their units are fairly similar in appearance and ability. They basically have 3 weapons between them, with slight variations. You either have a man with a spear, a man with an axe, or a man with a sword and shield. So also, if you're into, if you want to have lots of different things to paint and lots of variety, they might not be the best bet, because they're pretty one colour. So you can paint them gold, you can paint them all different colours, but in general the models aren't that exciting outside of the main colours. But some people want that, they want the really uniform thing. So think about that as well. And also, they seem to me to be a faction that Games Workshop struggles to find how they want them to be. They keep going up and down in power levels. So if you're a Custodians player, you're probably going to have bigger peaks and troughs, I reckon, in terms of...
I think it's just a matter of time until they release some vehicles and some stuff. Because there's, in the 30k verse in Horus Heresy, there's vehicles, there's things other than just men's running around. In 40k, you've got a few other things other than just men's, but it's like a Land Raider and a Dreadnought and a guy on a bike. There's gonna come in the future, if you get into the faction, that faction will grow and will expand, like other factions have grown and expanded beforehand. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they come up with.
Me too. Right, our next army is a fantastic army from a lore perspective. I personally, it's my opinion only, think that they're another faction that Games Workshop struggle to find out what they're really supposed to be. This is the Adeptus Mechanicus.
Right.
It used to be a mixture of Scutari and Cult Mechanicus. It's all one thing now. So you basically have lots of dudes who don't want to be weak flesh lumps anymore. And who would want to be a weak flesh lump in this world? And they instead just shove, if you've ever seen the Japanese body horror film Tetsuo, basically people just shove bits of metal into their body until they become horrible, freakish machine people. That's basically what the Mechanicus does. They do all the cool building stuff and designing stuff, and really, if the faction's appeal is that you get to play some of the most freakish body horror models in 40k that aren't chaos. So as an Imperium army, you have these servitors that are bodies grafted onto tank tracks, and you've got people whose legs and lungs have been replaced with bellows, and you have a very cool model who's a man on 2 very long thin cocktail sticks and a sniper rifle, which is always fun. But why would you play those? How do they play on the tabletop?
Because some people just want to play cyborg warrior priests from Mars in space. If you want to play with lots of cyborgs, then this is the army for you. If you want, see, in the grim darkness of the far future, there's a couple of ways you can withstand. Apart from being a normal human, if you really want to go to war, there's basically 2 ways you'll survive a war against the horrible Xenos out there, and one is to genetically engineer better humans, tick, and the other way is to become cyborgs, upgrade the human body to do things that the human body can't do.
Put springs in your legs so you can like jump up and down super high.
A cuckoo clock in your chest. Like you do all sorts of things, okay? You have multiple arms and a few tails if you want to.
Yeah.
And these are the cyborg robot warriors from space. These are these guys. They're also religious fundamentalists, and their level of religious fundamentalism also puts normal religious... They're definitely bad guys.
Yes. Everyone's a bad guy. Everyone we're about to talk about is a bad guy.
If you try and repair your toaster, and because you know how to change a fuse, and you haven't told a tech priest about it, then you'll be killed. They'll kill you. Yeah. You're not allowed to touch that holy toaster. Change a fuse. No. They're very precious about their technology.
The lore is really fun for these guys as well. There's all these little references to how they talk and how they behave. They're pretty blunt people in general. They kind of lose their jokey side, but they do occasionally try and make a nerd joke. They talk to each other in like binary code. They also, if you're into shouting things like "for the Emperor," or you like talking about how the Emperor, you love the Emperor and stuff like that, put that aside. There might be an Imperial faction, but their version of the Emperor is the Omnisire, right? So they always going on about the Omnisire. Same dude, isn't it? Same bloody guy.
The Emperor is the avatar of the Omnisire made flesh. It's a tripartite religion. It's one of the things, one of the reasons for playing these guys as well is also they make all the machines. They make the battleships.
They do, yes.
They make the god engines of war, the Titans. These are the guys with all the guns. You want to play the guys with all the guns.
Yes. And their guns, their flavour of guns is a little bit different as well.
Yes.
So generally across the Imperium, the factions in the Imperium, you'll see the same kind of things. Las weapons, bolt weapons, crack and frag missiles, things like that. It's all very familiar. You get to these guys and they've got things like arc Taslaphons and Chironidid putrid blasters and things like that.
Radiation carbine.
Rad carbines.
They believe it's true in Warhammer 40k that the older the tech, the better it is, because the Dark Age, the brightest part of it's long gone. It's long gone. It's grimdark in the far future. But the older the tech, the better it is. So someone in Skitarii school, somewhere in Mars, they found some really, really old pictures of guns. The oldest that they could find had guns made of wood.
They have arquebuses, don't they?
They've made guns made of wood.
Yeah.
Because older is better in Warhammer 40k.
Yeah, of course.
Transuranic arquebuses. All of that. Yes. Wooden guns.
Yeah.
Flintlocks.
How cool is that?
With a lancel on the inside, which shoots something like a small miniature atomic round.
Yeah. Very cool aesthetic. At the moment, they're a little bit in terms of rules.
For a while now.
Just remember,
a hard faction to play.
They are a hard faction to play, but stick to the faction you like the look and sound of, and I promise you, your faction will have its day, and your mate's faction, who has got all the cool toys, will have its day down at the bottom.
Chris.
It's an endless thing.
Chris,
Yes.
I missed my mouth a little bit there.
Oh.
Do you think we got that on camera?
No, I'll edit it out, mate.
Look,
don't worry.
See that?
It's fine. I'll just edit that bit out for the rest of the podcast. We'll put a thing over it.
Chris.
Yeah.
I have this drinking problem.
Yeah.
I sometimes miss my mouth.
Does it go down the side?
It's just a
little bit down the side. That's okay.
Astra Militarum, surely.
No, you haven't. No,
there's another A.
There's another A. Yeah. Because of fancy new name stuff in Games Workshop. The Eldari. It's spelled AELD.
Yeah. Okay, can we put this one to bed very quickly?
Okay, do you want me to do it quick?
Yeah, go on.
Okay, so if there's something wrong with you and you like playing as pointy elves that aren't from Lord of the Rings, because I do like a Lord of the Rings elf, alright? If you like playing pointy elves in space that think they're really good as well, because they're the good ones. We're going to get to the bad ones later, but the good ones are bad anyway.
The good ones are worse than the bad ones.
Yeah, if you like to have like mind bullets come out
Too much.
Have a weird skinny body that you're really lithe and stuff, you could play Eldar if you want, I guess. Their aesthetic is pretty cool. They got some cool looking armor. No, sorry, they look terrible.
Yeah.
They do look. I love Howling Banshees are amazing. It's this unit that scream in your ear and then they chop you up. But they've got I could go on about Eldar for ages, what aspect warriors are. They've got cool wraith constructs, all kinds of cool stuff. They've got planes, they've got tanks, they've got all the cool stuff. Anyway, if you want to play with any of these sucky guys who have seen some incredible power spikes and are generally a powerful army to play.
No one wants to play elves in space.
Sorry, no one wants to play elves in space.
You want to play with elves, you play in D&D, or it's Lord of the Rings, they're the only ones that count. With no one.
Okay, with one...
Are we on to Astra Militarum yet?
One caveat, right? So
What?
We've recently lost them as a faction. I hope they come back, but now they're part of the Elven factions in general. But there's a sub-faction of these called the Harlequins, and if you are a person who wants to get into 40k to show off and paint ridiculously well, then Harlequins might be your faction, although there will just be Eldar.
That's under H, though, surely.
They don't have the faction anymore.
Eldar. They don't.
No.
They're rolled up into the Eldari thing.
That's
another
just
reason why Eldari suck. They should be in the Drukhari one or on their own in Eldar Corsairs.
Part of both.
With Eldar Corsairs
right.
And the Exodites. They should have their own thing like Imperial agents. It's horrible. No one plays Eldar, and everyone who plays Eldar, which there is no one, but if there was, they would smell of Edam.
Yeah. I just want to quickly go back because we did forget to say Adeptus Mechanicus are an incredibly pound dense
they're the most
faction. They are so expensive.
Don't get them.
Their models are very cheap. You need many, many, many of them. Even your big thing, you go out and you buy like a big box of these big Striders and stuff, and you get home, they're like 5 points, and you're like, wow, I just spent £70 for 10 points. Anyway, Eldar can be built both as an elite faction using... Sorry, we're not talking about them.
No, we're not.
There's ways of doing it. Just message me later, I'll tell you. Next faction is... Okay, so this is a make or break army for some people. Some people, this is the reason why they get into 40k. Yes. Some people don't want to touch this because it's too normal. But this is the Astra Militarum, which all your... Pretty much 90% of your books is going to have human characters who are part of the military machine of the Imperium, and they will belong to this faction as a whole. They used to be called Imperial Guard. We still call them Imperial Guard, but if you want to be fancy, you call them Astra Militarum. And boy, you take it away, Squire. There's a lot of ways to handle these boys.
Meat shields in space. No, the Guard. Listen, if you're interested in Space Marines with the humans with the World War I, World War II aesthetic, trench warfare, mortars, massive artillery carriages and tanks, and also combat drops in aircraft things. If you are interested in a combined arms World War I, World War II sort of aesthetic in the 41st millennium against aliens, then read Gaunt's Ghosts. There is a trilogy called The Founding by Dan Abnett, called Gaunt's Ghosts by The Founding. Read that. By the time you finish those 3 books, you'll know all you need to know, and you'll have an Imperial Guard army, because it's that good. Yeah. The thing about Imperial Guard, there's something so heroic about you being the 783rd Lasgun guy stood on the line against the hive swarm as it's coming toward you. And there's another book called 28 Minutes, because the average lifetime of a guardsman on this particular deployment is 28 minutes. It's a horrible existence. This is where the true heroes lie. But of course they're absolute bad guys as well, because they'll think nothing about having conscript regiments and sending them into minefields to clear the way for the tanks, because the tanks are so much more important than the men. Mm-hmm. And their number one opponent as well we're talking about bad guys again, is the Imperium, guard on guard action, Chaos Guard, Imperial Guard, Blood Pact versus Scorn. The most of the time, they're a political tool, the hammer of the Emperor of these different fiefdoms across the galaxy. Sometimes, if they're lucky, they might find themselves deployed on a lovely hive world somewhere, and then a Tyranid spawn happens, and they're like, yay, a proper fight, and then some Space Marines turn up, and one of them's called Titus. That might be a nice day out for a guardsman.
Yeah. Most guardsmen don't see Space Marines, and the sight of one is incredible. The funny thing is as well about the guard being humans is that weapons that Space Marines carry about as if it's nothing, they have mounted and have fire teams operating them and things like that.
Yeah.
One thing I will say in terms of the getting into Astra Militarum or the guard is you'll find a lot of camaraderie with other guard players. There's a lot. It's a thing. It's just a thing. There's a lot of this going on with factions in general. Like people get really into their faction and it's like a football team. With guard, I see it a lot. If you want to have 30 guys, 60 guys, however you want to play it, we know people that play tons of infantry. The tanks are fantastic models as well, by the way.
Yeah.
Really cool tanks. But if you want to have them and just feel like you're the underdog, but at the same time have incredible amounts of firepower on your side, the Guard are definitely the army for you. They are not a pushover army. You can put a lot of shots to bear.
Guard have always been good.
Yeah. And one of the things that I find is they people joke about them having flashlights. They all have las guns. They're all very lower than Space Marine tier strength and toughness and things like that. So as a benchmark, a human is just a lot weaker. People will say to you I can take down anything with my flashlights, but really there's a lot of things in it that in the army that help you fire a lot more, and sometimes you'll be quite shocked at how many shots you're getting on you from units of guardsmen who are just holding the line, and you don't want if to fight them, you have to waste time going through little toughness 3 weak bodies blocking the way. You're not really diminishing the power of your guard army by hacking your way through these humans. You're not diminishing the firepower potential of them. So it's really great for that.
Yeah.
So if you're into that, like Winter said, if you want something to connect it more to the real world or something that you can identify as part of the real world, probably Astra Militarum.
It's quite obvious what Games Workshop did with this particular faction. Before Warhammer 40k, there was historical wargaming with tanks and cavalry charges and artillery. Games Workshop did Warhammer 40k and said, oh, 1 minute, there's a big audience for that. We'll put that in our game. So that's where it is. So you like that sort of thing, but you want to do it in the future against demons. Guard is for you.
Yes. Their base. There's lots of creativity here. You can make your own soldiers of any kind, pretty much. Yes. But their base troops, Cadians at the moment, I think you can still get Catachans, but Cadians are your sort of World War II GI almost looking infantry. But if you have a little Google for the Death Corps of Krieg, you'll see some other aesthetics that the Guard can have. And Catachans are your American action movie jungle fighters, and there's loads of options.
The Cadians are the thing. Where's Cadia then? Yes.
Cadia's had a slight mishap recently.
Right.
So here's something that I didn't fully understand myself at first, but Cadians have now become more of an ideal, right? So their home planet is pretty big. If you start reading the lore, if you're new to Warhammer, I still thoroughly recommend going back to 30k, going back to the beginning, even if you only intend to play 40k and working your way through. But you're going to see that Cadia has got a bit of a nasty backstory. They happen to be quite near a very dangerous place, an entrance, a bumhole,
right,
into the warp, right?
Yes.
Which means that it's very heavily contested. And unfortunately,
everyone wants the bumhole.
Everyone wants the bumhole, yeah.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, despite all the jokes that Cadia could never fall, it might have done a little bit into pieces.
A little bit.
into little tiny pieces. So
is it dead or mostly dead? Because if it's mostly dead, it could get better.
I don't know. Is there still bits of it left?
Cadia stands, brother. Cadia stands.
Cadia
Everything
fell.
else is propaganda.
Cadia fell.
Don't believe the lies of the heretic.
There's Cadians everywhere now. They can be from anywhere, apparently.
Canadians get everywhere.
Yeah.
Because no one suspects a Canadian because they're all so friendly.
So they're all so nice. Yeah. That segues. Oh, by the way, Astra Militarum will be expensive because you're going to buy tanks. If you don't buy tanks...
are you really playing Astra Militarum?
Are you really? Yeah. You've got your infantry...
You can go
That's
elite
fine.
as well. There's the
Dark
Troops and the Scions and Bullgrins, which are abhumans, big humans, and Rattlings. You can go quite highly elite and make some specialised forces. It's been a very well established range for a long period of time. There's a lot to sink your teeth into.
Yes.
Weeds, Gaunts, Ghosts, the founding. You'll have a lovely time. Thank me in the comment section.
Yeah, and if you have a taste for old miniatures from yesteryear, if you want a bit of old hammer, there are old regiments you can get hold of. You've probably seen on the channel Mordian John with his gigantic Mordian army that weighs a ton and is very expensive. But it is there. If you want to be an old school collector, it is there. Next army. We go straight past B. There's no Bs.
Right. No B.
No Bs.
Who needs a B anyway?
Yeah,
Can I have a C, please, Bob?
Yeah, so it's C. And it's Chaos Demons.
Chaos Demons.
Weird faction, Chaos Demons. And I'll tell you what for.
Why? Why are they a weird faction? They're Chaos Demons. Does exactly what it says on the tin.
It does do what it says on the tin. Chaos Demons, strangely enough, are actually a twofer.
A twofer?
A twofer. If you collect them in Warhammer 40,000, you can also play them in Age of Sigmar. They have the right bases and the same models. But there are other things you can add on. I've always found Chaos Demons a little odd because everyone else has got guns and machines and vehicles and stuff. Chaos Demons are the same as they have always been. They are demons from the warp. And they come in a variety of flavours. You can have Khorne demons. You can have Slanesh demons. You can have Tzeentch demons. And you can have Nurgle demons.
The only taste I know out of those four is Khorne.
Khorne, yes.
Khorne
pretty plain, yeah. They all have greater demons. They've had some superb models, right? Yes. Recently, they've all got stuff. Really, if you want to play Khorne demons,
are you about to get raided?
Yeah, they're always waiting outside for me. I'm giving away too much hot information. That's Games Workshop. You know what? I can't. I don't endorse demons, but I think demons are great fun to fight against. Personally.
Yeah, everyone likes fighting against a demon army, solo demon, because you can do all the factions together, or you can do individual factions. Someone comes around your house, right, knocks on your door, says, "Hi, look, I got this Slanesh army, all on chariots and seekers and speedy demons and flight." You'd be like, "Come in, I love a bit of Slanesh. Who doesn't?"
You get your heroic imperial warriors and heroes, and you feel like you're fighting the right kind of thing.
Even if you did something crazy like demons versus Tyranids, how cool would that be? Who's faster?
Hordes of
Who's
stuff.
More there's the Chaos Demons. Does exactly what it says on the tin.
Funnily enough, I did witness once after just mentioning our friend Mordian John.
Witness me.
Actually, I've got some silver. No. After witnessing, you may have seen Mordian John's Mordian army. He fought against a full Slanesh army.
Nice.
He went for pure infantry, and obviously it was pure Slanesh demons. I don't know how many points, 1,500 to 2,000, and the board was just absolutely flooded with men with las guns desperately trying to shoot down, and people getting chopped up. It was carnage. It was one of the most beautiful sights I've ever seen.
How cool does that look? Can you imagine how full would it be?
Yeah, it's beautiful. So if you want to be the baddies,
every faction is bad.
Yeah, see, Chaos are just what they are. They're not lying to them. They're not.
Chaos Demon players, when you meet them, they're the kind of players who go, I know they're the bad guys. You play those guys. I just
I know what I am.
I know what I am.
I'm not ashamed of what I am.
In a universe where everyone is the baddie, you have to be the bad or a baddie to stand out. There's something hardcore. They normally have loads of tattoos and piercings. They're lovely people.
But you're the gribbly baddie. You're not even the gribbly baddie. So you're like the just there's nothing redeemable here.
They've always got
you're literal demons from hell. Yeah. But they're great people. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I've brought a greater demon of Tzeentch, a greater demon of Nurgle, greater demon of Khorne. Not Slanesh. Mummy didn't like that. Here's all the little gribblies. Let's go. Grinning at you.
In terms of armies, you can build them however you want. You can go for a more elite. So there's tiers of demons. There's usually there's the base demon which you spam, that you like your infantry. Then there are like stronger versions of cavalry and things like that. And then there are greater demons, which are fantastic models. But you can go really elite and have lots of greater demons, or you can go for pick one chaos god like Slanesh and just have hundreds of battle line Slanesh demons on the table, with supported with one or two big things maybe. So you can make it cheap or you can make it very expensive. It's up to you.
What I'd say is if you like painting, this is the army to get. And if you've already got armies and you're a good painter, this is the well-painted demon armies look amazing.
They do.
All of 40k. We like the models. That's why we're here. What's that? It's a dreadnought. It looks cool. We're here for the models. But a well-painted demon army looks amazing. And
they're very vibrant, aren't they? That's the thing. You can make them very colourful. Yeah.
You can do what you want to them. And some of the images, if you just go online and put in Chaos Demons images into Google, some of the most magnificent armies that you'll see in Warhammer 40k on the tabletop are demon armies. And the painters get that. Yes. So if you like the art style, do that one. Yes. You'll love it.
Tabletop-wise, this is important.
Yes.
They are, because you can play them in both systems, it's no surprise they don't really have guns. There are some demons that have some ranged attacks, but for the most part you're investing in a close combat army. Some of them can deep strike in, they can generally move quite fast depending on which flavour you're playing. Some are tougher than others. Because of the four gods are all a little bit different, you'll find different strengths and weaknesses amongst them. You can either do a nice little pick and mix and match, or you can just go for one style and run with it.
You can do a big horde, you can bring loads, or you can actually not buy very many models and do it quite cheaply with some really big models.
Yes.
Interestingly, they've got the fastest and squishiest units in the game.
Yes.
In Slanesh Seekers and things like that. The absolute fastest and squishiest. But they've also got some of the slowest, most resilient units in the game, because Papa Nurgle's at the other end of the spectrum. Apart from guns, which they do have some of, it's a movement punch. Yes, it's just do it for the art.
Yes, do it for the art. Yes, that leads us into their large kin, the Chaos Knights. Now, knight armies are
beautiful,
very, very different to anything else you're really going to collect. So knight armies are about having 3, 2, 4 big, very powerful, very tanky, very damagey models. And the Chaos versions of the knights, that there is going to be Imperial knights later, but the Chaos version of them lean into the melee side of it, as from what I understand. They have more variants with, you have like knight rampages and stuff. These are basically knight households. Fantastic ideas. You've got these knight households all across space, and some of them have remained loyal and some of them have become evil, treacherous swines, and they can team up with people, they can go out on their own. They're more bound to planets, aren't they? Knight households. They're kind of like the aristocrats. They're the royalty of a certain zone.
There's lots of reasons why Chaos Knights could be fleet based, or Imperial Knights could be fleet based, or Crusade based, going along on one of the Dark Omens, one of the ships, for example. They could be doing things. But yes,
they're generally a supporting element, aren't they?
Big chunky robots of Doom, which look awesome, great models, but they play differently.
The Chaos variant are the superior variant by a mile.
Yes.
Don't get into that Imperial Knight nonsense.
No,
it's rubbish.
Visually,
Chaos Knights are way cooler.
Visually, Chaos is cooler than Imperial stuff,
yeah.
right? I mean, Space Marines are cool, Dreadnoughts are cool, all that stuff is cool. But come on, add a few spikes and things, and it looks so much cooler.
Yes. So in general, they're expensive, but also cheap. It's weird.
You're going to need many.
Yeah, you're going to you can perhaps buy a centerpiece, a very large centerpiece, or several of the large non-centerpiece models. Yes. There's a smaller variant, the War Dogs. Are they for the Chaos ones?
Yes.
Which are very cool little robots. The only thing is, I've had this discussion before. It's a little bit controversial. I find that in certain situations, depending on who you're playing against, your friends might not have an army that is particularly well matched for that game. Either you or them might find yourself in not the greatest matchup. Because the only way really to hurt knights is to hit them with high strength weaponry, anti-tank weaponry dedicated. All your small arms is effectively pointless against them. So if you've built a very balanced list to deal with hordes and other things, it kind of makes that part of your army a bit redundant because there's nothing really for them to deal with. But that's something for another day. Personally, as your first army, I wouldn't recommend knights myself. There's much more joy to be had building squads and having heroes and stuff. Knights are very much a very small group of extremely elite, much more so than Custodes, extremely elite models. And their variety isn't huge. It's not huge. It's mainly in the weapon options you can give them. You might want to invest in magnets and learn how to magnetize as well. If you're not interested in that, they might not be a good faction for you either. Chaos Knights, there you go. And on the tabletop, they will struggle with certain objectives, but they kill you, right? They've got killing power and they've got staying power. Is that a fair approximation?
One of the things that you'll find in Warhammer 40k, but one of the things you find in war games in general, is the rock, paper, scissors effect. Now, many armies in Warhammer 40k have a way to mitigate the rock or the paper or the scissors that you can build versions of. But the knights, they are big and tough, and there's a low model count. So that's a big rock, but that could also be... They either win big or lose big. They either go up against forces that are like, okay, I'm not going to strike, or they lose big because you've got the tools to deal against. So that rock, paper, scissors thing, you'll feel it when you play with them, which is why they're not necessarily a good starter army, because if you're winning big all the time or losing big all the time, then it's not as joyous as those close quarter battles that come down to the last dice roll. That's where war games properly sing.
I like that. That's a fair, because I'd like to just say, I hate knights, I think they're garbage, but that was much more nuanced.
Knights on knights, on the other hand, they can be really
now that could be cool
battles, because then it often does come down to the last dice roll. It feels more like Warhammer 40k chess with knights. I've played many games, like when I've got 6 or 7 in total, a couple of big ones, loads of little ones, against a similar force, like Chaos Knights versus Imperial Knights, work really well as a game. You can actually, because it's such a low model count, is smash out a couple of fights in an evening.
And
it's good 40k.
You've kind of condensed 40k down at that point, so you've gone back to the fun part of the game, because everybody's tough, everybody's strong. That's cool. Next, while we're on the sea, there's a lot of things that start with the word chaos.
Right.
So the next thing is Chaos Space Marines, or the Heretic Astartes. Now, we've got to take a little bit longer on this one. We thought when we started this, we might be able to do them all. We've got a lot left, so this will definitely be a multi-part thing. Because I think it's going to use up all of our time just talking about Chaos Space Marines. Because
we could edit out the intro, that bit.
We'll just edit out.
Yeah.
We'll just edit half the show out.
No, not half. just the
we've got to get rid of the splash
Did we
on
talk
you.
about penguins again? It was such a long time ago. I can't remember.
I'll cut the screen in half diagonally so that they can't see the water that you spilt all down yourself.
Yes.
When you're not sloppy.
Chaos Space Marines are clearly the best faction. Tell them why, Warsmith Chris.
Chaos Space Marines, a couple of months ago I would have told you they're the best faction ever, but I'm completely converted to the side of the light of the Emperor now.
Don't tell them why then.
But yeah, however, I still fully understand what makes Chaos Space Marines a great fun faction. So have you ever gone down, you ever met up with your friends, right, and they're all like being goody two shoes and stuff, and sometimes you just want to be the baddies. Now the Chaos Space Marines will tell you that they're not the baddies, right? They will tell you about betrayals and all this kind of stuff, and they'll hark on about it,
right?
But essentially what we've got here is, this is all of the legions. This is an army that is all of the legions that haven't been given a specific god focus. This is where they go. So if you don't want a specific Nurgle god, which is the Death Guard.
Chaos God you're talking about.
Chaos God, yes. Did I say Nurgle god?
No. So
you don't want a specific Chaos God.
Means, yes. Okay.
Got no idea what I'm saying anymore. If you don't want a specific Chaos God army, so you've got World Eaters, which are the core army. Yeah, this is where everything else goes, right? So gives you a lot more room to play with. Yeah. And in here you've got things like the Black Legion and Abaddon, which is great. You can do things like Night Lords and Alpha Legion, Iron Warriors.
Sons.
No, Thousand Sons have their own army.
They have their own army.
Yeah, they're a different faction. Yeah. This is
World
where
World Eaters are in there. You can.
No, World Eaters have their own army.
Death Guard, the Plague Marines are in there.
No, the Death Guard have got their own army.
Right. Apart from that, what have the Romans ever done?
What have the Romans ever done for us? But anyway, this is where the Space Marines go that don't have all their own rules, right?
Ultramarines.
Ultramarines go here, probably. Yeah. Dark
Legion.
Angels. Yeah, they're all there.
Right.
Anyway.
Is there any demons in it?
There are demonically possessed people in this. So this is a faction where you get to play baddies, right? Bad people who, this is where you're going to be doing raiding. You're going to make your core of Space Marines that have succumbed to darkness. They are slaves to darkness now. They are rallied and they follow the War Master, Abaddon. They have, some of them have cast their old legions aside and joined with the Black Legion, who are quite well supported in terms of Chaos factions. Games Workshop generally don't like generic Chaos that much. They're a bit mean to them. But the Black Legion get their stuff. They had Hark and World Legion, World Claimer and all this kind of stuff. But this is where you're going to play Space Marines that you can give a little bit more flavour to yourself. Iron Warriors live here, which is, great faction. And the way that 10th edition works is that we don't have to actually play the rules for our chapter or legion. We get given a bunch of legions that are heavily hinting at who they're for, but you don't have to do that. So, for example, previously the Iron Warriors, if you played them, you'd have stratagems and army rules that said things like, oh, they can destroy buildings and can besiege people. But now you can actually play them however you want. They can play in any style. So you're not restricted anymore. So if you like Chaos Space Marine models, you just pick the Legion you like the look of. You go in there and you're going to have things like your regular Space Marines who are all going to be as good as Space Marines. They're still full of starties. They still get all the wounds and the good shooting and everything. But they can also call upon the power of the Dark Gods to enhance their attacks in exchange for possibly having their brain explode. But don't worry about that. You could have cultists. So instead of standing alongside the guard, because there are bad guard, but instead of standing on them, you have cultists that surround you. You have mutants. You have all the dregs, all the horrible things they could pull out of the warp. And if you want to go and raid real space and go to an agri world and kill all the civilians there and take all their stuff, Chaos Space Marines is the faction for you. Also, their machines, they are currently the only faction that is still using, without being legacy, the old vehicles you may have been used to. If you've been a 40k fan in the past and come back to it now, you can still find your Predators and Rhinos and things like that as part of the core rules for Chaos Space Marines. Over on the Loyalist side, they're Legacy, and they've been replaced with Primaris versions, but Chaos Space Marines are keeping the old school flavour alive, which
for
is...
now, because there's a
for
demon called Vashtor the Archifane, and
yes.
through his lore they're going to legend all the old stuff that's still on the Chaos side, and Vashtor the Archifane's going to do a Belisarius call and make loads of new vehicles for the Chaos Space Marines, which is coming up, because they like all the demons inside their machines.
Yes.
They, if you don't want to put a guy inside the tank, put a demon inside the tank. Yep. And you know what? That can change and warp the tank. So now it has legs and paws and is really, really angry.
Yes. So, want to be the nasty evil dudes? Play them on the tabletop. They play like a more melee-focused version of Space Marines, although they have had their shooting enhanced a bit, haven't they?
They can shoot. They can do everything.
They can do everything.
Marines could do. You can have a very highly shooty army. You can have a very highly punchy army, or mixtures in between. You can have a fast, speedy army, deep strikey army. There's all. It's big enough to do anything you want with Chaos Space Marines now, including blood sacrifices, penguins dropped in boiling fat, demons appearing. Lots of things. You can add a Chaos Knight to this army as well if you want to. You can add 25% demons to this army if you want to. The demon, it's fully what sort of music do Chaos players listen to? Chaos Space Marine players listen to, Chris?
I think
they're a specific breed. These people.
Yeah, I think they listen to noisecore, which is just like manipulated screams of people being tortured and stuff. Just in their ear. And if you're into that kind of thing, you'll love this. You get demon engines. You get Space Marines possessed by demons.
Yes.
We've got all demon bits coming out that just go into combat and laugh. Kill everyone. So you're very killy, you're very everything. Chaos Space Marines have received a lot of love in the last sort of 5 years, starting with their initial rework from the very old models. I can't even remember what that was now. Probably like 2019 or 18 or whatever it was.
There's a lot more love coming for them.
There's more love coming their way. Chaos are finally, they're back out. They're main contenders. Get on it if you cannot abide the love of the Emperor and Order.
These guys are baddies, and they know it, and they're quite happy about it, and it's good. Because you need really strong back. You need in literature and you need a Death Star. You need a proper threat, a Death Star. You need something like that. And this is that. And they like that horrible music that Chris said that makes people scream Enya or something.
Enya, yeah. Enya. Right, that is probably the sum of today's factions. We're going to go through. We've got a lot happens. Alphabet-wise, between C and N.
There's at least 10 more letters in the alphabet. This is going to take a long time.
It does skip a few, but we'll be back next time.
Right.
With some more of this. Let us know what you think. This has been fun. It doesn't matter. If it hasn't, we don't care about the rules. We break the rules.
Yeah.
To bring you fresh, exciting, hot takes on armies such as Eldar are actually...
Shut up, Chris.
No,
not allowed.
All right,
Edit,
okay.
Please. No,
sorry,
Eldar,
I will cut that out.
Can't.
Okay.
They did the thing.
All right, I think we're gonna have to
murder, and a demon god.
Just gonna have to cut this out.
It's horrible.
We'll talk about it next time when we get to Drukari.
Law. If you're new to the hobby, don't go there.
They did some bad things. We'll talk about it next time. I promise.
There can't be. There's a worse. They're all bad guys. These guys are the baddie of the bad. They're even worse than those space dwarves in space who are pretty bad. Not Michael Jackson bad, but bad. In a bad kind of way, in a demon. Here we go. Look at me. Naked, running down the street. Smothered in jelly kind of way. Bad way.
That's the one.
I mean, I would scream if I saw you naked running down the street covered in jelly. I would scream.
After you took the photos, eh?
Yeah, it's definitely going on the Instagram.
Right, I've had enough of this. I've had enough of you talking and them, all those other people talking in my head. We've got some Xenos to kill, I think. We've got to go slate. We've got to go fight in the name of the Emperor. So it's been I've had a really great time talking with you. Thanks for tuning in and watching the STC podcast. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time with some more of this great quality content and extra production values.
This week, right? Don't please tell me about the thing earlier, because it was like 8:30 on Friday when you said, "Is the video going up?" And I didn't even have the video, and you said, "No, it's all that," and I didn't know.
Yeah, so quick story.
Rush in and do the thing and put the thing on the thing. So when you've done the thing, tell me you've done the thing.
Okay.
You do the thing.
So what?
I'm mainly here for morale purposes.
I just want to tell these guys a quick story, because he's got a lot of stuff on his mind, and the human mind can only hold so many things. So what I did was after the last episode, as soon as it was over, I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to edit this right now, and I began editing it within 10 minutes after we finished recording. Had it all edited, all done within a couple of hours. Uploaded onto the internet. I sent him a WhatsApp message, said it's all done. It's on the Dropbox. Didn't hear anything until Friday, and I was like, surely he's put it up. He must have queued it up or something. And I thought, I'll just check in with him. And he was like, yeah, but have you done it yet? And I'm like, dude, I did it within an hour of when we finished it.
You never do it within an hour.
I've turned over a new leaf.
Editing, I've yet to see any evidence of that either. We talk about the editing the things out, but they're always in.
No, it's production. It's budgets.
I'm looking forward to the horse emoji.
Yeah.
I literally say, I'm looking for you, and you didn't. There was a horse. There was an opportunity there. Where was the horse emoji?
That's a good question. If you've made it this far in the episode, ask us in the comments where the horse emoji was. That'll be our secret code.
The horse emoji.
Because I'm really, really not sure how many people are still going to be going at this point.
The ones who get to the end, if you are watching this at the end, you're one of the real ones.
We actually love you. You're the real ones, and thank you for tuning in each time. I don't know why you do it, but you apparently do. So we're grateful for that, and we'll keep doing the thing. But
maybe you can tell us why you do.
Maybe you can tell us why you do, because we don't know. But, are you mad?
What is it? It's, You'd like to fall asleep to this? You would be stroking the cat. Fine. I don't know.
They like to trick their brain into rebooting itself so they can go to sleep.
We appreciate you.
We do. So thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next one. And it's been a blast. Thank you. Love you. Love you very much.
Bye. Love you.
Bye. Oh, sorry about that. I'll edit that bit out in post. I'll do it in post.
Yeah.